This is Do It for a Living, your source for inside information on the future of automotive performance.
I want to see that smile. I want to see that gratification when this guy comes in and pick up his car. That's what drives me.
What's holding you back from starting or growing your business into what it can be? Well, if you're listening to this, it's not a lack of information. What you're about to hear is all you need to get motivated and start making waves. Do It for a Living podcast details the journey of today's true players in their own words. Find out how they broke out so you can too. The time is now. The time is always now.
Welcome back to another episode of Do It for a Living. I'm Kevin Dubois. Today we got a really cool guest, Kenny Tran of Jotech Motorsports. Kenny is local to our area here in DFW, and if you've been following the podcast for a long time, you'll know that several people have mentioned him, including Tony Paolo, because I believe he was a former employee of Kenny. So Kenny has been obviously very influential in this industry. He's been doing it for a very long time, and he's got an excellent history that he's going to share with us here today. So Kenny, how are you doing today?
I'm good, Kevin. Thanks for having me on your podcast. Appreciate that. But all the stuff you rattle off just made me sound like I'm a 50-year-old dinosaur, man.
You're not a dinosaur. Well, the industry hasn't been around long enough to be that old, right?
Yeah. But I feel it. I know what you're saying.
Awesome. So, Kenny, why don't we go ahead and get started? And why don't you tell us, how did you get started? Take us back to when you were a kid and what kind of got you involved with cars.
Wow. Okay. So I would have to say my very first influence with cars would be my cousin. So, we immigrated to Houston from Vietnam, and I stay in the same room with him. And, in his room, obviously, there's cars everywhere, and he collects every single issue of Car and Driver, Road and Track magazines. I mean, any car magazine that you can think of. And, little kids, me and him, we just go through it and just look at all the cars, compare the specs, and act like we know everything about all these cars. So I think that's the really beginning of me getting to know cars, and that's where a little kid like me dream about it and say, wow, one day I want to own one of these things and so forth. And I think that's the first influence with cars that I've had. And obviously with him, I remember his first car was a Camaro RS, and it was he got a brand new one, and he slept in that car for the first day that he got it. And I helped him clean it and so forth. So it was an exciting time.
What kind of time frame was this?
This was back in 1984.
Okay, so that's when you moved to the States.
Right.
Okay.
Right. I was 8 years old.
Okay. And what kind of upbringing did you have? I mean, did you go to school in the States here, and obviously you had to learn English here, or did you know it before you moved to the States?
I knew a little bit of it because with the immigration program, you had to learn just enough English to pass.
Uh-huh.
So they had I don't know what you call it, an inspector or interviewer. You have to go to one of those guys, and they interview the whole family, make sure that you knew enough English to survive over here. Because basically we got sponsored by a family member, my uncle. He sponsored us to come over here. But, you have to go through rigorous paperwork and everything to make sure that, somebody has housing, what are you going to do? What job, what skill set? Can you speak English? So all those things had to be all, in line in order for you to come to the United States. So, you look at the well, not to be political, but, I see the immigration thing that's going on right now, and I'm like, wow, I know what that feels like.
You've done it, right?
Yeah. Don't want to do it again, that's for sure.
Okay, so you guys are reading magazines, and you get to Camaro RS, and you guys, what kind of, education and training did you have? I mean, you obviously own a shop. It's very well known, probably worldwide. And how did you get to that point? Like, what kind of training did you have?
Well, to fast forward, I would have to say, I didn't have any formal training. I worked at Jotech Motorsports at that time when Jotech started. This was back in 1995, and it was started by my brother-in-law. So I worked for him when we first opened here in Dallas, and he's the one that gave me all the knowledge and everything. That's how we got started.
Okay.
But prior to that, I was already, working on my own cars. I was buying and selling cars. I was upgrading them on my own and selling them. That's what I did on the side while I was still in college. And even prior to that, we kind of raced our own car because my brother-in-law loaned me his car, and I remember two kids, went onto the back roads and we started drag racing.
Right.
Right. This is before drag racing was, was popular, and me and him, I remember this was in Humble, Texas, and back then, Humble, Texas, there were no lights or nothing. I mean, we were in the middle of the woods. There were just some back roads there, and we just parked the car and say, all right, from here to here, let's see who wins. And that's how we did it,
I think that's how a lot of us got started, racing in the backcountry streets, right?
Yeah. And then the next thing you know, it's like, okay, let's find out what can I do to this car to make it faster. And then that's, the rest is history.
Okay. So you said you were in college. What were you going to school for?
Business administration.
Did you finish?
No, I didn't finish. I had 3 more credits before I finished, and it was a opportunity of a lifetime for me, because at that time, my brother-in-law was thinking about selling the business, and that's when I came to my father and my brother-in-law. I had 2 brother-in-laws, not to be confused. So that's when I came to my father and asked him, and I told him, I said, look, I've been going to college and I really didn't have any direction. I didn't really know what I was doing. And at the time I was helping him with Jotech, and, I got really involved with it and I really liked it. I mean, I even offered to work for free for the first 6 months just to build a business up, and, just making ends meet. At the time, I was making $600 a month, barely enough to pay for, my car and insurance and, food. So it was a rough start, but it wasn't for the money. I didn't do it for the money. I saw something that I really like and fell in love with it. And that's when I asked my dad, I said, hey, I can do this. Let's buy this business. And I got so confident in doing so that I promised him, and I made a offer to him. I said, if we do this, I can guarantee you that I'll double the sales, whatever Jotech's doing now. So I saw a future in it. And I felt really confident with the friendship and the clientele that I have already existing. And I knew that it was just a little bit more that I had to a little bit more time that I had to give into the business in order for it to succeed. And he agreed to it. And once the paperwork was signed, I mean, it really took off. I mean, I was really, really excited about it. I didn't have to worry about school anymore. I told him, I said, I'm not going to get that degree. I really don't care about getting a degree. This is what I want to do for the rest of my life,
And it sounds like you took all the classes except for, it sounds like, just one of them. So you got the education. You just didn't get the paper.
Right.
So all the value of it is really taking the classes. And because when you're a small business owner or when you own a business, like, it doesn't really matter if you have a degree or not because you don't need it, right? You're your own boss.
It's, obviously the education helped because it does teach you methods. It does teach you that you're a rule follower, that you can read a set of instructions and follow through with it. So it does help. I do value the education. I do see it transfer over to the business. It helps when you're in the real world and you get to apply it. It's kind of hard to sit in the classroom, reading all these, doing all this paperwork and just reading it about it, but you really don't get to apply it. So the experience that I have while I was going to school, that really makes me motivate and want to do good in class because I know that it applies to the real world.
Yeah, okay.
It's kind of hard to apply a history lesson to an automotive industry, but at the same time, it's interesting. I mean, you learn. It's bottom line is, with school, you have to follow instructions, and when you go out here, it's the same thing. You have to be able to follow instructions to be successful.
Excellent. Okay, and So you really were like, you saw the vision of buying this business from your family, nonetheless. So
Right.
it's, you know, you were already involved in it, and you saw how successful it could be. And so, do you kind of think of yourself as an entrepreneur? Did you really set out to like run a business? Is that what your goal was?
Yeah, yeah. That was the um, going back to my childhood when I was, 14, 15, and, coming from an immigrant family, we didn't have anything. We didn't have any money. We didn't, we started buying clothes and furniture from garage sales. The car that my dad had, it constantly broke down because we had to go back and forth between work from Dallas to Houston. And I remember making all the trips with him, and it was a Chevrolet Citation, okay? And the darn thing keep overheating. Something will always break on it. I remember one time it was on the side of the road, and my dad had to walk from, hours. And at that time there's no phone, no pager, no
Uh-huh.
nothing. I was sitting inside the car with my sister and my brother, and I remember him walking back with a gallon of water and with some hoses, and try to make it to the next exit. And it was tough. It was hot. We live in Texas,
Right.
and that right there just drove me nuts. I'm just like, you know what? It's already little seeds, planted in my head that I'm gonna get a better car when I grow up. This
Uh-huh.
is a problem here. It's keep happening over and over again. So it's one of those things. It's one of those things that that impacted you when you're little,
Yeah.
and then you want to do better. You want to have a better car. You want to have a better life, and obviously you work around it.
Awesome.
Yeah.
So take us to the racing here. So you said you kind of bought the business, and that was like in the 95, 96 time frame, I'm guessing.
Yeah, 90. So 2 years after that, so around 97.
Okay, 97. Okay, and so very quickly you were very, very successful at racing. I mean, drag racing the Honda, right?
Right, right.
So kind of build that. How did that story work out for you?
Well, at first, it's again, it's by accident because I sponsor another driver. His name is Tom Lee, and he used to go to this drag event. I forgot what it's called back in the days in Houston, and that's when it really got started at the Royal Purple Raceway there. And we sponsor him. He goes out there. He does really well in his car. And back then the car was a '93 Acura Integra. It ran 11 second and a quarter mile with nitrous. And we would read in the magazine. We were looking at other guys in California like Tony Feud, Stefan Papadakis, and Gary Kubo and the likes. And we were seeing what they were doing, and we were mimicking and copying some of the stuff. And then sometime we would go off route and try to do something of our own and see if we can better their times. And we noticed, we're pretty close to what they were doing. So we were onto something. And I remember one particular race that we were on the way down there, and an unfortunate accident happened. A drunk driver. So we pull over on the side of the road. We had some car issues, and we pull over on the side of the road, and a drunk driver smashed his car and ran into Tom and two of my employees.
Hit the people, not the vehicles, right?
People and the vehicle.
Okay.
So they ran into the car, and my guys were standing in front of that car, and that car hit them, and they flew like 10 or 20 yards. And one guy, Tom, had his leg broken and amputated. So we all were pretty struck by that. And obviously it's just a really bad situation. And fast forward, we didn't have any driver, we didn't have any race car or anything. And then that's when I kind of just stepped in and then I have to build my own car. I have to go out there and race it, and it just kind of took on from there.
Okay. So
Yeah.
I mean, you guys are probably still friends, if I had to guess. But
Yes.
you basically at that point, is this when you built your Civic?
That's when I built my Integra.
Oh, the Integra. Okay.
Yeah, so I had an Integra, turbocharged it. It was making good power. We were ready to go to the next race. And one of my employee drove it to go pick up something, gas or whatever, and pull over. And the car was lowered. And back then that was the thing, to slam your
Uh-huh.
Hondas, right? So
Uh-huh.
he's about to cross over a railroad track, and another lady just ran right into him and totaled the car. So it just, like I said, it was a really, really tough beginning. It's just like one thing right after another. One bad luck thing just happened right to another. And then, and then I remember the following day I had to, get another car to go prep. And I called up a local Honda dealership around here and say, hey, do you have any Honda Civic hatchback that I can buy? And they say, well, we have one, but it's in storage. We haven't cleaned it or anything. Um, it's got so and so miles on it. We can't sell it yet because we haven't made it ready yet. I'm like, it doesn't matter. I just need a chassis. I just need a car, and let me go over there and take a look at it. If the body is straight, I'll buy it. So I went and met up with the salesman, and he showed me the car, and I said, okay, I'll take it. He said, you're not even gonna test drive it? I'm like, no, I don't even care what's in it. Just as long as it doesn't have an accident, I'll buy it. And I remember I made a comment to him that day, and he asked me, what are you gonna do with this car? I'm like, well, I'm gonna put a integral motor in there, and I'm gonna make it run 11 seconds in the quarter mile. And his jaw just dropped. I mean, at the time, what is it? A Honda Civic DX was running 19 seconds in the quarter mile. And he's like, all right, okay, buddy, I believe you. Well, just get that kind of look, right?
Yep.
And we just moved on from there. I should bring that car back to him now.
You proved him wrong, right?
Yeah, he had that look in his eyes. I'm like, oh, okay, kiddo, nice try. Move on.
So that Civic, kind of tell us what you did with it. I mean, I'm sitting here looking at your webpage where it kind of lists all your like records and all the stuff you've done with it, but kind of take us through the history of that car.
Well, so I bought it, upgraded. I took the driveline from the wrecked Integra and just transferred it over. Okay. So I transferred everything over, got everything up and running, did the tune up on that, and went out to Texas Motorplex and here in Ennis. And I think that day we ran like a 11-second quarter mile or something like that. And it was the first Honda Civic, in the state of Texas. At that time, our goal would just be the quickest and the fastest here in the state. It wasn't anywhere beyond that. And we were proud of the car was doing that. And then, over time we progressed. Upgraded to an Integra GSR VTEC engine, bigger turbos and so forth. And we started reaching out to some of these Californian manufacturing and parts suppliers like Revhard, Fast Track Turbos, HKS, Volk Race. Yeah, basically, these are the products that we sold, that we carry and sold. So we partnered up with them and say, hey, look, we got this fastest Honda Civic here in the state of Texas. You guys want to partner up and do something with us? So they helped us out quite a bit, gave us parts. That was our first sponsorship, sort of. And we started doing really well. The times kept dropping. We got into the tens with it. First one in the tens here in Texas, and the car really, proven itself that it's fast and reliable. So I remember back in '99, I made a decision. You know what? Let's bring this over to California and Pomona and run this. I think we can run with the best of them. Let's bring it over there. So that was our first out-of-state event ever. Was at back then it's called a Naira or a Super Street or National or something like that. It was the finals at Pomona. So we could only afford to go to one event.
Make it the big one, right?
Let's go to the biggest one of all, right? So we went out there, and I remember we went out there, and a lot of people came by, and they're like, man, who are these guys? From Texas? You guys came all the way here from Texas, and no, they haven't heard of us or anything, because at that time, the magazines was only giving coverage to the West Coast. They didn't really do much with Texas. It was either California, or you had to be in Atco or Englishtown. That's where all the import racing was happening, right?
Right, the two coasts. Yeah,
two coasts, and that's it. And I remember at 1999 at that event, we broke the world record at that time was a 9 second something, and we ran a 9.68 at 144 mile per hour with this Honda Civic back then, and we did it back to back. We ran that 4 to 5 times in a row. It was the first 9 second side by side. I ran that against Lisa Kubo. She ran another 9. At that time, I think Ed Bergenholt, Elisa had the record at that time, and it's that record stayed in California for like 10 years. No one has really touched it, and we came out there and we broke the record, and it was a milestone for us. It was pretty cool because the magazines they really liked this and gave us good publicity and everything, and that's I remember. Once we broke the record, they were super friendly, all the racers and everybody that came by, like, hey man, congrats, it's awesome, so forth. So we made a lot of friends that day, and that's when the sponsorships start rolling in, and people would just come by and say, hey man, we want to work with you, what can we do, and so forth. And we were kind of overwhelmed. I didn't know what to do, I didn't know what to say. I'm like, yeah, sure, give me your number, let's hook up. And it kind of snowballed from there. And that's when the following year we started to get serious, and we looked at the whole entire series and attended the whole entire series and chased after the points and so forth.
And this is really in a time when sponsorship was actually a thing. You're actually able to get corporate sponsors and people to actually help you out, right? It's right. Nowadays, everybody asks for a sponsorship and everybody just kind of groans and moans about it because people take your stuff and then don't do anything with it, right? And you were actually attending every single event you could find. Right.
You had to give them a proposal. You had to give them a timeline, a schedule, which events you're going to attend. So everything was based on performance also. So not only that you have to attend, are you going to place? If you place, you get X amount. If you came in second, you get X amount. If you qualified number 1, you get X amount. So these were everything was incentivized to where it makes sense for them that if we do well, obviously they're going to get the coverage. They're going to get the media. Okay. If we don't do well, then you don't have to pay us as much. Okay. So it's a good partnership because we weren't asking for money to fund our racing program. We were looking for partners to help us be successful. Okay. So we're going to put our dollars into it as well. We're not expecting you to write a check and then, we're going to go race on your dime. So that's how I viewed it. And the whole entire time I was doing that, I was looking at it as a medium for me to market my name and my company.
Right. And I was just going to ask you, how did the Jotech Motorsports shop play into the racing that you were doing?
Yeah, so during the time that I was racing, the shop was still open, and we still kept our schedule 6 days a week. The guys, I would have separate crew that would take the car to the race. I would fly out the last minute on Friday when I get out of work. I'd fly out, get in at 1 or 2 o'clock in the morning if it's on the East Coast. Get up by 6 a.m. in the morning, qualify on Saturday, race on Sunday, and hurry up and get to the airport and take the late flight to go home and open up the shop on Monday and start working again. while the guys are bringing the car back to the shop, if it was on the way from one state to another, while they bring the car back, and they come back on Wednesday, get the car prep, and then send them out again the following Tuesday or Wednesday to go to the next race. So we did around, anywhere between 15 to 25 events from a stretch of March to November. So it was almost every other weekend.
Yeah.
And we
did a lot of racing.
Yeah. So we did that for like 9 or 10 years straight. So it was fun, but at the same time, it was pretty brutal on the schedule.
A lot of work. So yeah, you said when you bought the business, I guess from your family, you told your dad that when you bought it that you were going to double the sales. How quickly did you actually do that?
The first month.
First month. Okay.
Yeah.
So pretty much immediately.
Yeah.
So it obviously grew a lot since then. Today, you're still like extremely well known. How has it kind of progressed through the years? Has the racing really paid off very well for that?
I would have to say the racing has paid off for us because it helps us market our company
Hmm.
statewide, if not worldwide, and we're able to attract a lot of clients, high-end clients that still remember us from the
Hmm.
days of racing, and they see I've always, no matter what company sponsor us, I've always have our logo on the windshield to market Jotech. So, now that they see that, wow, he stopped racing, he's got a shop, and there, I have customers that move down here from New Jersey or whatever, and they're like, oh, okay, I remember you guys back in the days when you race. I didn't realize you still have a shop. So, we get a lot of business from that. So
Yeah.
yeah, I definitely it helps out.
And I wanted to ask you about your like the and this is very rare, the larger corporate involvement that you have attracted. And I say it's rare because I don't know of anybody short of like Formula Drift or even like Ken Block, those kind of guys that are able to draw in like big sponsors. But you had like Scion and Black Magic. I remember you were at SEMA with their giant rig that I don't know how that worked out with you, but can you explain to us like the corporate connections you have and how that kind of has worked out?
Well, the connection all started with Needle Tire,
Hmm.
Scion, Quaker State, and Black Magic. So those are my title sponsors when I used to race.
Hmm.
So those are manufacturers and guys that we work with. I remember my first meeting with the Scion was I was out there with my Honda, and I noticed everybody around me was getting sponsored. They were getting sponsored by GM and so forth. And so a lot of Honda guys have left the Honda camp and went with GM Racing,
Okay.
and immediately they're up and running. They're successful. It's a big budget team, and we wanted to work with Honda also. So obviously I reach out to Honda and see if there's any opportunity that I can work with them, and just I didn't see any opportunity there. And I remember one time I was in Pomona. Again, it happened in Pomona. And this young lady walked up, and she was just in regular street clothing. She just came up, say, "Hi, I'm Sheila Swanson from Scion. And, nice car." And we just kind of talk casually about the car and stuff. And she just kind of asked me what I do and how long I've been doing it and so forth. And we just have a casual conversation. And then she further introduced herself, like, "Okay, I'm the marketing director for Scion, and I would like to sit down and talk to you about an opportunity to drive a Scion TC and race for us." And that's when I really stood back. I'm like, wow, this is corporate here we're talking about. And obviously the meeting went well and everything, and we did our pitch and told them what we could do and so forth. And it was a very successful partnership, and it kind of took off from there. And at that time, the import racing industry was huge. I mean, you had Summit, you had Nopi, you had NHRA. I mean, you had everybody and their mom trying to get that piece of the pie, and
Uh-huh.
and you had ESPN2 doing the TV coverage. You had Speed Vision, so you have all these people that were that really wanted to be involved in this market. So it wasn't just us. It was a lot of teams and a lot of drivers that came up at the same time,
Hmm.
have the big corporate sponsorship, was able to do it successfully and go through all these events and do it for many seasons and beyond.
And I mean, Scion gave you a car, right? Is it they call those like a body in a white or something? Because it's like almost a tube chassis car. You had them in your showroom there the one time, right?
Yeah. Actually, it's not a tube chassis car. It's a unibody car. So in the
Okay.
class that we ran in, had to have stock firewall, floor plan, rear panels.
Okay.
The engine has to be in the same location and what have you.
Okay.
And I remember the speed at which Scion operated. It was something that I've never experienced and never seen before. So Scion, obviously Toyota, the same company.
Yep.
And when we signed on to it, I needed a car. I needed a car because racing is already begun. Well, I mean, it's gonna start in 3 months, and there's no way for us to build a car in 3 months. So I looked at it and I told her, I said, we're probably gonna have to miss 3 months of racing. It'll probably take us at least 6 months to get this thing up and running. So I mean, I completely switched my program from Honda to Scion overnight, basically.
Mm-hmm.
So they didn't even have a car in the because at that time it was still pre-production prototype.
Before the company actually was selling any cars, right? Mm-hmm.
Exactly. Yeah. So, fortunately, well, they signed up. Christian Rado first,
Okay.
and Christian had a Scion to spare. He had a prototype that he was doing some mock-up,
Uh-huh.
but his class was a tube chassis, so he didn't need the car.
Okay.
So he shipped me the car like next day, like the following day. Transport showed up at my shop and delivered his car. So soon as we got it, the shop just stopped. I got all 10 guys on the car. We ripped it all apart, chopped it all up, take out as much weight as we can, and send it to a chassis shop so that way they can put a roll cage in there.
Uh-huh.
And keep in mind, we've never seen a Scion before. We don't have an engine. We don't have nothing.
So he sent you just a bare chassis.
Just a bare rolling chassis, and I've never seen a car before or anything like that. So I went out and they didn't have one to give us. So they told us to go ahead and go to the dealer and see if you can find one in your local area and buy it, and we'll reimburse you for it because I need one for mock-up. I need to see what the engine looked like, even tear it up and build it and so forth. So we went out to the dealership, bought one, took it back to the shop, tore it all up. We needed some engines, we needed short blocks, we needed cylinder heads, we needed just all the accessories that we need to mock it up and get manufacturers to make billet parts or racing parts for us so we could build this car. So literally we had 10 engines next day air to us, cylinder heads, valves, valve train, camshafts. So we're flying parts left and right next day air, for the next 6 months and try to build this car. Okay. We didn't even have an engine to give to the chassis shop to mock it up with, So long story short, we were able to build this car in 6 months and got it on the track and took it down to Moroso. And that was our debut with the Scion TC. And man, it was tough. I mean, could you imagine building a full-on race car in 6 months? Carbon fiber doors had to be made, roof, the front end, the fenders, turbo kit, headwork, cams, engine wire harness, brake system. I mean, we use parts from every single car that you can think of. The front end, the knuckle came off of a Pontiac. The axles came off of my Honda. The transmission came off of my Honda. So there were a lot of Honda parts that we had to use, to make this whole thing work. So it was tough, but we debuted it. It went out there and ran 8 seconds on the first hit. And it was a very successful program. We broke many records with it and won 2 championships with the car. So it was a very fruitful partnership. It was a very successful partnership.
Awesome. Yeah, that's something like I said, nowadays you really don't hear a lot of that, where you get like OE manufacturers getting involved in our really essentially our niche, I guess import racing scene, right?
Right. So what I guess once the Nopi drag racing and the NHRA Sport Compact series dissipate, when they disappear, a lot of the corporate sponsorship disappear with it, and it kind of happened right around when the economy tanked too. So so that didn't really help at all. So timing has a lot to do with it. Timing has everything to do with it.
Okay, and the Black Magic stuff, I mean, that's more recent. What's your involvement with them? Like, I mean, that's like for people who don't know, it's like detailing equipment, right?
Right, detailing equipment. So they're part of a group. It says ITW Global Group. So they own Blackmagic, Gumout, Rain-X. So a lot of consumer products that you would find at AutoZone, O'Reilly, and so forth. So we partner up with them to market Blackmagic products primarily. So we do a lot of car shows. We do a lot of appearances at Walmart grand opening, because obviously they own quite a bit of shelf space at Walmart, for example, right? So we do a lot of these promotions with them at all types of venues. So SEMA. We do, like I said, the Walmart grand opening we did for, as I think I remember, it was one of the NASCAR event. So just to get the name out, we did a lot of giveaways, so all kinds of different things to help market their products. Yeah.
And how did that? I mean, you're doing this as Jotech Motorsports. Do you sell their products, or do they like pay you to do that? I mean, how does that relationship? Tell us about the relationship between the two.
Yeah, so obviously they paid us monetary for this. They support us monetary for the sponsorship.
Mm-hmm.
So with that, we use our assets. The truck and trailer and everything that you see, that was our asset. So we helped them market the products. So we went to a lot of the Mecum auto auction show. Yeah. So those. These type of events are their demographics that they're looking for. So we went out there, and we're not selling any of the products. This is purely just promotion only, brand recognition. We did a lot of giveaways. We gave away free samples.
Yep.
And just explaining exactly what each product does for their vehicles. So
you bring you had Lamborghinis at SEMA and your GTR and stuff like that. So you bring your fancy, pretty fast cars out to these events, right?
So it gives us an opportunity to represent and bring our own vehicles and with our own performance package to show people that, hey, these are the cars that we worked on. This is the companies that we partner up with. These are the products that we use, and we would do sample and we would do a live demo. This is exactly what we use for. So the target audience that we were committing and representing to our core, we're looking for hardcore enthusiasts that have these type of vehicles, or have just love being around cars and take care of their own car. The DIY guys, the guys that does their own car washes, the guys that clean their own tires or clean their own wheels. So obviously they need products, and they want to know which product works. So these are the products that we bring to them.
Awesome. Yeah, it's very interesting seeing all these connections that you have, because obviously not just anybody. You obviously had to have known somebody, or somebody knew about you to kind of make that connection. And because I would not even know who to talk to. I could not call Blackmagic and say, hey, I wanna help market your products. They wouldn't know who I am, right?
Right. Yeah. So obviously, we knew people that works there and that runs the marketing side, and we came together, and I had a prior relationship with him. He ran the Quaker State marketing program with Shell Global Solutions, and then he went over to Blackmagic, and that's when he asked me, hey, let's partner up and do this again, and that's how the relationship started.
Awesome. Very interesting to hear that. Okay, so you've been out of Dallas here the whole time. Has that location played a role in your success?
I think so, because this is this is my home. This is where I lived since 1988. So obviously I travel a lot from racing, but there's no place like home. I mean, after you travel so much and you see everything on the West Coast, East Coast, and so forth, and once I come back to Dallas, it just gives me a different feeling when I land here at DFW. It's spacious, lots of land, it's clean. The cost of living is not outrageous.
Right.
Air is good. So, to me, I call this home. I love this place, and I just can't see myself living in anywhere else but Dallas.
Okay. And I guess more recently, after the 2008, you kind of talked about the import drag racing kind of falling off. But the GTR, obviously, that market came out right around the same time.
Right.
And you've been pretty influential in that market as well. So you were very very early to get involved with it, and I mean you're still doing it, and you're still at all the like Texas 2K, and you go to all the import face-off stuff. How has that kind of progressed for you?
It's huge. I mean, right now that's the Nissan GTR is 80% of my business.
Okay.
So we've actually kind of streamlined and moved away from other platforms and kind of just focus on primarily the Nissan GTR Infinity products.
Okay.
Main reason for that is just how easy it is to make power with these cars. And that's all attributed with good tuning software, good support from the aftermarket manufacturers, and the fan base. I mean, guys that owns GTR loves their car, and not only that they love their car, they love to modify it. So it's not something that we have to pitch that hard to even try to sell the products. They already know what they can do to it before they even come into the showroom. So it's an amazing platform to start out with, and we're just fortunate to get in on it early and build a reputation with it.
And I remember talking to you, and this is probably a couple years ago, almost on this exact topic. And so the GTR is obviously easy to make a lot of power with, but the Scion, in that case, it's a car that, you know, like, I mean, they're very inexpensive. You don't have to spend $100,000 to get one. So lots of people can buy them, but it's much harder to make a lot of power with them. And did the Scion kind of market that never really was like as big as it is with the GTR? Was that kind of an influencer in kind of moving to the GTR, or is it just the fact that drag racing kind of dropped off and you needed a new platform?
I would say the timing again has to do with everything, because during that time, drag racing stopped basically. And new exciting platform GTR is coming out. We're more focused on staying here at the shop. The clientele base is starting to move to more high-end cars. The Scion aftermarket products kind of taper off because it's a front-wheel drive platform.
Yep.
So there obviously there's limitations. You cannot make 700 horsepower and expect it to get it to the ground safely. So you would hit a barrier. You would hit a obstacle. You can't make that kind of power. So guys were just getting up there, making 300-400 horsepower. Once they get above 500, they're limited to traction. So now you have to upgrade the transmission. You have driveline issues. You have to upgrade your axles, and then now you can't. I mean, after you spend all the money on it, you still can't go as fast as an all-wheel drive.
Right.
A stock one, to be at that.
Right.
So I just kind of looked at it as also a personal preference. If I was a customer and I want to spend, and I have the means to spend $30,000 or $40,000 or $50,000 into my car and turn it into a quote unquote supercar or fast street/race car, and I want 600-700 horsepower, can you deliver this? Of course we can, but after you're done with it, you still can't run as fast as a stock GTR. So I'm looking at this. I'm like, by the time you tally up the amount of money that you're going to put into this car, you still can't beat a stock Nissan GTR. So it's kind of hard to sell. It's a hard sell for me.
You really, really have to love it.
Right. You really, really have to love it. So now our demographics and consumer base is shrunken because they don't believe in it. They don't believe that spending that kind of money is worth it into this car. So we had to move to another platform that was able to do that.
Yeah, and don't get me wrong, I think you're absolutely right. The GTR market is the people who are buying them and modifying them have the means to do it extensively. I mean, if you can afford a GTR, you can afford to modify it a lot. Whereas some people buying a Scion are almost certainly going to be a full, a lien on the car sort of thing, and you're paying your bank for it. You're not flush with cash to drop $50,000 on a $25,000 car, right?
Right. And for us tuners, we're kind of handcuffed also as far as what we can do to it, because realistically, it's kind of unsafe for us to give a customer 700 horsepower in a front wheel drive car, to go out there and try to run these things. It just doesn't, it's just not safe.
Okay. Okay, so let's shift gears here a little bit. So, have you ever like doubted yourself and wondered if this is going to work, and how do you overcome that feeling and move forward?
Well, it happens every major cycle, meaning every major, collapse in the industry, like, or the housing market in
Yep.
'08, what happened in 9/11, and so forth. So every time that there's a major catastrophe going on, the phones stop ringing, the emails start coming. So those are the days or weeks or months that you question yourself, and that's when you have to get creative. That's when you have to, that's when I question. Okay, it's because this market itself, this is a want market. This is definitely not a need market.
Right.
You don't need 1,000 horsepower car. You don't need $5,000 set of wheels. You don't need any of this stuff.
Right.
So when the market tank, that's when the phones stop ringing, and that's when you worry. You're like, okay, how is where are they? Where's all the customer? I mean, are they scared? But it's I would say we're pretty fortunate that even in the bad times, we're able to pick up new clients that always comes in and want to do these things, because this is the feel good industry. This is what you do when things are bad, and obviously these it's not meant for everybody. This market is really for guys or women that has the means to do it.
Mm-hmm.
So you have the capital to do this kind of stuff.
Right.
Yeah.
Can you explain the worst experience you've had in business?
For me, worst experience I have in business would be if I have a complaint by a customer or something like that.
Mm-hmm.
It's just something that I always view it as there's no such thing as this as a no solution, or no, we can't do it, or no, we can't meet somewhere, or we can't satisfy this situation. So if it gets to a point where if I have a complaint, or I have one business dealing with one client that is just unbelievable, very difficult
Mm-hmm.
to deal with, and the kind of stuff that he was asking for was just very unreasonable,
Yeah.
put it that way.
Yeah.
So if you meet a person that's that unreasonable and it just doesn't have any common sense and wants to sue you and do this and all kinds of stuff, and just doesn't have any basis for doing that, and just doesn't have any common sense, that's what drives me up the wall. So I ran
agree.
into one situation like that in the past 22 years that just, I learned from it. I grow from it. There's no doubt about it. But, that's the one thing that I would say that's the worst experience in doing business for me. But other than that, if, there's an issue that comes up or anything like that, everything is solvable. I mean, there's always a solution for it. We can solve it.
Okay. What's something you're doing right now that has you fired up?
Right now, I have all these projects that clients are looking forward to get their cars, and it's basically it's all these Nissan GTR Stage 6, Stage 7 that we're doing. We're introducing the Stage 7 for our package now.
Okay.
So it's exciting to me that we're almost done with this car. Let's get it going. I want to see that smile. I want to see that gratification when this guy comes in and pick up his car. That's what drives me, right? So
Yep.
and it's a personal connection, because I want, this is what they wish, this is what they dreamed of, this is what they grew up wanting, and now they have the means and the capability to do it. This is their once in a lifetime deal, because not everybody is a millionaire that can do this.
Right.
I mean, people saved up for this. So it's we're building dreams here. We're building cars of their dreams. So I want to make sure that I see this through and that they're happy with it, So it's a pretty cool deal when I get an email or I get a phone call. Man, the car is absolutely wonderful. We love it. Thanks for doing it. that right there, that's what gets me out of bed more than anything. That's
Excellent.
that, besides my family. I mean, that right there is pretty cool. I share that with the guys, and they get pumped up about it too.
And the car you ran at Texas 2K, your car, that ran like an 854 or something. Was that your stage 7, or is that something different?
That's my stage 6.
Oh, okay.
So yeah, so the cars that we build and the cars that we try to push on and our ideas is building all these street cars. That's our thing. We want to build you a street car that you can drive every day, pick up your kids at school, go to groceries, that can run 8s. So our stage 7, we target those cars to run low 8s, but still have all the amenities, still have all the drivability, the soft suspension, the big carbon ceramic brakes, everything that you would want in an ultimate street car.
Okay.
So you don't have the $2 million to go buy a Bugatti Veyron, but if you want something of that caliber, you can do it for much less.
Right.
And this is the platform to do it with.
Yeah, and what I love about, and this is kind of like in our region here, I guess in the Metroplex, what I really like is everybody has really kind of niched down and focused on one particular car, which makes you the best at it, right? So, like you're doing nothing but GTRs, it makes it a lot easier for you to focus on just improving that platform. You don't have somebody coming in with a I don't know, a Toyota Corolla or something and saying, hey, can you turbo this and go fast? I mean, you tell them go to another shop, right?
Well, we still have that relationship with a lot of customers that drives, Hondas, Toyotas, Scion, and we still service them, we still work on them, but very limited numbers. Just for a simple fact that, we can't specialize, we can't work on every single car and be good at it. So that's why right now on our menu, we have a menu, and these are the cars that we work on.
Okay.
The Infiniti G model, all the Infiniti products, the 370Z, 350Z, the newer BMW M3, M5. We get into some of the newer Porsche platform, the 997 on up to 991. We still work on the Evo 10 only. We do some of the newer Subaru STI. So, if we have clients that owns GTR, and then, they also have an STI or they have an Evo, and they say, hey, we got this car, we really want you to work on it, then okay, fine, we'll do it. But if a customer call us and say, hey, we got an Evo 10 or something like that, I would refer them out to shops that specialize in them. They're better to take care of them.
Gotcha. Okay.
I don't want to work on every single car there is out there. I'd rather be specialists in the cars that we know of.
Okay, so you do it. It's a small portion. I mean, you said 80% of it's GTR, but it's mostly just to help out friends and existing customers, right? Okay.
Right, exactly.
Okay. Okay, so I want to take a second here and pause and thank our sponsors. We all know owning a shop is difficult, so we created My Shop Assist to help you manage the various jobs. Whether you run a machine shop, a performance tuning shop, build off-road trucks, or even do powder coating, My Shop Assist can help you. It is completely online and will help you schedule the jobs, log time on each task, track parts orders, and take pictures of the work. You can even export your jobs from My Shop Assist into QuickBooks as invoices. So if you're interested to improve operations at your shop, check out myshopassist.com to start your 30-day free trial. Okay, so Kenny, why don't you go ahead and tell us about Jotech, where you're in right now? So how big is the space you're in, and do you rent it or did you buy the building?
We bought the building back in 2008.
Okay, great time to buy a building, huh?
Well, because our lease ran out at the previous location. So, I've always wanted to, and at that time we've already established, and this is it. This is what I'm going to do as a career. Yeah, I'm not going to change my career. I'm not going to, go out there and all of a sudden become a computer analyst or something like that, So I'm like, okay, I better get serious here and start buying some real estate and have a building of our own. So during that time, it was scary. I mean, could you imagine 2008 going out and spending money?
Right.
Yeah. So
unfortunately, I bought a house right like 2 months before the crash.
Oh, man,
so I did the same thing.
You.
I think you probably got a better deal than I did, I bet, though.
I got a better deal. Yeah, I got a better deal because at that time it's, the market sunk and, people were begging you to buy it.
Yep.
Yeah.
How big is the building you bought?
The building is 15,000 square feet.
Okay, so it's pretty big, and it's two separate buildings, right?
Two separate buildings, okay. Yes.
And you have I guess what we would call the traditional showroom, where you have a lot of parts on display. It's big. You have your drag cars in there.
Right. Yeah. So the showroom is huge. I mean, we have enough room to park 4 cars in the showroom. So we have pretty much every product that you can think of for the GTR in stock. If we don't, it takes us a day to get it. Okay. So we got enough parts here to build stage 6 or stage 7 GTR right away if you wanted one. And then we have the shop with all the install lifts and what have you. And then the second building, we have 2 dyno cells back there, one for the 2-wheel drive and one for the all-wheel drive. And then it's a storage back there also for all the cars.
Okay. And then do you have a formal business plan? Have you ever written one?
No, I didn't have to write one, because it was just me going to my dad and saying, this is this is me going to my dad and say, Dad, I think I can double the sales. I mean, I don't need to do anything. I mean, you know what's funny about this? I did wrote a business plan for a pool hall that I wanted to do.
Okay.
Yeah. So while I was in school, I was playing pool. I was hustling, playing pool and doing the league thing and everything. And, I'm okay. I'm decent. I can get the job done. And I remember going to him, and I wrote up a business plan. I say, okay, this is how many tables we can lease or buy or rent or what have you. This is the square footage of the building. This is how many hours, peak time, off peak. This is how much we would charge hourly. This is how much we charge for drinks and sodas and snacks and sandwiches. So I gave him the whole entire business plan for a pool hall, like down to the painting on the walls and stuff, how much money we have to spend on that. And he looked at it and say, no. Pool hall is for hoodlums. We're not. So that went down the drain, and I spent a lot of time on that business plan. So after that, I'm like, nah, I'm not doing any business plan anymore, and it's just this is ridiculous. I spent all that time for nothing.
Did your I guess corporate sponsors and people, did they ask for anything of the sort, or is it just contracts?
Oh, yeah. Proposals. So yeah, I have to write up a lot of proposals. So okay. Yes, I do a lot of business plan with our sponsors. Yeah.
And again, it gets back into the college or the schooling you took is all kind of geared towards planning and business management, right? So you have experience in understanding what to do in this area.
Right. And I think the best advice that I got from my mom and dad was just treat others like you would want to be treated. Mm-hmm. So if you were to invest this money into anyone or a business, what do you expect in return? Mm-hmm. So if you ask that question and you answer your own question, just put that on paper, let them see it. So it's pretty simple. So when I partner up with any company or anybody, I would put myself in their shoes. So, okay, you want me to spend X amount of money on this program or on you, what do I get? What benefits do I get from this? Okay. So it's pretty simple from there if you start thinking it in that sense.
Cool. And your employees, you've obviously had a decorated history of employees, and everybody who's kind of, I guess, what do they call it? You've mentored people as you work for you, and several people have gone, and like Tony is obviously extremely successful as well.
Right.
How do you do it? How do you keep these guys, and how do you train these guys to be such good mechanics? I mean, obviously, Tony is your front desk guy, and he's been there as long as I've known you, and he's excellent. He answers the phone every time I call, and I can't say that for just about every other shop I call.
He's my best friend, and he's my right hand man. He gets stuff done behind the scene. Obviously, people see me as the front man in the company, but every good company, you gotta have people to be successful. So I pride myself in finding good talent. So I got a pretty good percentage rate going. Finding good people to work for a company. So I pride in myself in finding the right pieces to the puzzle to help us get there, Uh-huh. So I'm proud of all the guys. They did really well.
How many do you have right now?
Total right now we have 8 guys.
Okay. And do you find it difficult managing them?
Definitely. Anything above, I think anything above 10 people is very difficult to manage. Mm-hmm. We've actually got more efficient when we downsize. Okay. So I think for me, as a shop owner and manager, just managing around 5 to 8 people is good. Is good for me. But we're at the point right now where we have good people that work with us, where I don't have to micromanage.
Okay.
They take ownership into the company, and they actually make it better for themselves and for their work environment and for their future. So those are the kind of things that I'm at that point in my life right now where I need quality time. I need quality people.
So you pay them more, but you don't have to manage them as much, right?
Right. Yeah, it's worth it. It's well worth it, and it takes time. This is something that it's not something that I've learned in the first 5 years. I mean, even now I'm still learning, but over time I just learned how to work with people better, and communication has gotten a lot better from how I first started.
Okay. And how many hours a week are you working?
I'm doing 40 hours a week.
Okay.
Yeah. So yeah, we're 5 days a week company, 40 hours.
So you're done with the 7 days a week and flying at 1 in the morning and waking up at 6. You don't have to do that as often anymore, huh?
Yeah, I don't think I can do that. It's tough. It's tough. Now, I wouldn't say I wouldn't do it again, because you never know. That's what life's throw at you, and you're just gonna have to do it. But say right now, if there was another successful racing series popped up and somebody comes up to me and say, "Hey, Kenny, we want you to go racing again," I would revisit that conversation if I see the series and, the people are getting riled up for it. It's the level of competition and the people, the friendship. That's what makes me go.
Okay.
So if that day ever come again, don't be surprised. I'll do it again.
And you're married now, right?
Yes.
And do you have any kids?
Yeah, I have 3 kids.
Okay. Do they kind of I mean, they're kind of really the driver for your schedule. I mean, having kids in a family you're not gonna want to be at the shop 90 hours a week, right?
Exactly. Yeah, with kids it's very difficult. So you gotta you gotta share all the times and do everything. To make sure that you're spending time with them too. So yeah, they drive my schedule, no doubt.
And with your time you do spend at the shop, do you find the time you spend managing the shop, or are you still working on cars, tuning? What do you do with your time there?
I would split it up, because it drives me crazy sitting in the office doing paperwork and paying bills. I do that. I do that first, so that way I can get into the back and start wrenching and tuning.
Okay. So you still do some work then. You still are like tuning when you get a chance, because you enjoy it, right?
Yeah. I get a kick out of it. The managing part is cool because you do see progression, and you see, I love I love perfecting the processes. So I love to see that everything works. Just like when you tune, or just like when you put a motor together, you want to see everything works. You want to see all the gears and all the cogs are lined up. So that whole entire thing it's never dull to me. It's never the same thing every day. There's always something different. And even though we specialize in one car or one platform, there's always something new that pops up that that will surprise you.
Right.
So every day.
Does the pay justify the time spent?
Does the pay justify the time spent? No. Because
good answer.
Because I looked at, in this line of work, I get to meet a lot of successful people, wealthy, rich people, and I look at how many hours and the time that I put into it. It doesn't justify. I mean, but then again, this is what I love, so you can't compare. You can't put a price on it. So monetarily, no, but for happiness, yes. Yeah. And sometimes I do see it. I see guys that have a lot of money, but they're not really happy at what they do, so they have to spend a lot of it to make themselves happy. So it kind of equals out.
Evens out, right? Okay.
Yeah. Somehow.
And what are the primary tools you're using for the business? I mean, this is an example, like you're using QuickBooks. You have a shop manager. What else are you using?
So obviously what you mentioned, the all data, and plus all the tuning software that we have, and the calendar, and I love Apple products. I'm sorry, but I'm just I drink that Gatorade. So everything I have is Apple, and they made it simple for everyday use. So I kind of take the same thing and just apply it to business and get everybody on the same platform. So it's easy for us to communicate and share stuff. So it's working out great for us.
Okay. And do you break down your revenue at all, like based off of part sales, tuning, service, manufacturing? Do you break that down at all?
Yeah, I do break it down, and as labor, part sales, and so forth. Yeah, we do break it down and look at autographs and reports. QuickBooks, it does a pretty good job at it. It's not the only thing is it's not scalable. You can't change things like you would on an Excel. But it does the job. I mean, I spend more time dealing with customer and seeing the project through than looking at all the data. Okay. Because that doesn't get the job done. That doesn't get the cars out of here. That doesn't get, the tune correct. So I kind of just look around and see where the priorities are at, and then focus my energy on that.
Okay. And the reason I was kind of asking is because you have such a big showroom, and you've always, even in your old building before you were in the one you're in now, I remember your showroom was just filled with parts. And so obviously you're doing a pretty decent amount of part sales. Is that a good percentage of your sales, your total revenue?
Yes. Yeah. And we don't do any online sales or wholesale.
Yeah, none at all, right?
Yeah, none at all. This is just all retail walk-in sales and just people calling us. So we're kind of an old traditional dinosaur. But I found that it works for me. I'm still I like this right here. If you want to interview or something like that, I'd rather be talking to you, Kevin, than answering to you on an email. Right. It just doesn't feel personal to me. So I like that personal connection. I like that handshake. I like to meet people when I do business. So I don't know. I guess I'm old, just like you said in the beginning.
But it's working for you, so.
Yeah. So I'll stick with it.
Okay. And we kind of touched on a lot of what you're doing for marketing yourself. You obviously build race cars. That's very successful for you. Trade shows you're doing. You sponsor people. Do you do like Facebook at all? Yeah. Are you guys doing like forums still?
Yeah, we still do a little bit of everything. The social media, we're big on Facebook, Instagram, YouTube. We have previous years we did some YouTube channel, JotechTV.com, where we did a month-to-month episode, just kind of recap what we do here at Jotech.
And those videos were excellent, by the way. I used to watch every one of them that you had. So,
thank you. Yeah, Pepper did a great job for us. So we're looking to come out with new episodes soon. It just kind of it kind of got bored a little bit towards the end there because we're only working on one platform. So now that's why we start doing different things now. So we're gonna do something again. I just took a break. I took a little bit of break from there just so I want to refresh and come up with something new for our viewers.
Okay, so I want to go back to talking about your plans for the future a little bit here and more about yourself. So what's something you struggle with in business and how do you deal with it?
I guess for us and for me personally is growth, because we've gotten to an area where I think our business has hit its caps. Primarily is because of the number of employees and space that we have. I mean, we just we just can't grow any bigger than this until we have bigger building, more lifts. You're gonna have to excuse the car that's back there.
That's right.
I'm sitting right next to the next to the shop, so they're firing up. But obviously you gotta have more lifts and more people, and that's the only way that you can get bigger, unless you're doing internet sales, part sales. That's another way. But to me, I don't know. I guess you do what you're good at. So we're good at servicing these cars. We're good at building these packages for a customer. So that's what we're good at. We're good at selling these packages instead of selling parts online. So because we're not good at selling parts online, I feel like that's where one of our weaknesses is at. I mean, that's where we can really increase the revenue. So there's weaknesses obviously in our business that I feel that we can improve. But organically, if we want to grow into a bigger shop that we know that we can be successful at, that's going with a bigger shop, adding 10 more lifts, adding 10 more employees. That's something that we know that we can be successful at.
Okay. Yeah, and you're kind of in the same boat as me where I'm happy being smaller. I don't want to have to have more people to manage, so.
Right. Until I find the people that can manage another group of employees of 10, then yeah, we can do that. But other than that, this is where we're comfortable. We don't have to struggle, and we can be true to ourselves. We don't have, I haven't raised my labor rates. I don't know. I can't even remember. So it's always been the same. And we have the ability to match price on, compare prices online and match them. So we have the ability to do that just because we're a smaller company.
Okay.
We don't have a huge overhead that we have to compete against.
Right. Do you have a 1-year plan for the business and yourself?
No, at this point, we're just flying, static right now. We're not looking to expand at this time.
Okay.
So we're just waiting for a few newer platforms to come out, research it to see if this is what we want to get into. Right now it's 4 weeks back for us to even get new customers in. So I think we have more than we can chew right now. So okay. I don't want to plan and get new customers while we have old customers here that we need to take care of. So it doesn't make sense for us to go and market ourselves and try to bring new business in if we can't even take care of what we have now.
Yeah. Okay, I hear you.
It's a good problem for us right now. So we're very grateful that we have great support.
Okay, looking further down, do you have a 5-year plan or anything you'd want to have accomplished by then?
Yeah. 5 years. 5 years from now, I like to be in a bigger building.
Okay. So you are looking to do that then? Okay.
Yeah, definitely. We're looking to do that, but again, this is all got to be grown from within. So we got to make sure that we have a good network of information and leadership team that can run the front and the back, so that way I can make the next move to the next level.
And we like to take action on Do It for a Living. Can you suggest an action item that our listeners can take away to improve their situation?
I would have to say focus. That does it all for us, because anything that we do on and off the track, whether it's even paperwork or dealing with issues, anything like that, if you focus in on that particular set of problem, it's gonna get done if you put your mind to it and you focus on it.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, and then moving on here, let's go to the quick answer questions. And so these are just kind of say the first thing that comes to mind.
Mm-hmm.
Can you tell us a game-changing product you've seen in the last year?
Game-changing product for us would be software.
Okay, so tuning software.
Tuning software.
Okay.
Yeah, because if we can't patch in and tune that car, it's no sense for us to do anything to it. We can't build a motor. We can't put bigger turbos on there if we can't tune it. Okay. So software, it's king for us right now.
Okay. And what software programs are you using daily?
For the GTR, we use the Cobb
Exosport
tuner.
Okay.
Yeah, and Ecotech. So those are primarily the two tuning software that we use.
Okay. Do you have a favorite app that you use? And this can be anything, like Facebook, Instagram, whatever you have on your phone that you play with.
Instagram and Facebook, they're rival side by side. It works really well for us. We picked up quite a bit of business with those two apps for our social media.
Okay. And what's your favorite shop tool?
QuickBooks. We use it every day.
I mean, like a mechanical tool, like are you like a welder or dyno or?
Oh, for me, yeah, it's gonna be electric impact guns.
All right, yeah, the electric ones are pretty nice. They're pretty powerful now. Some of them are as good as the air guns. So.
Yeah. Like I literally don't have an air gun in the shop anymore. Yeah.
Awesome. And what kind of car are you driving now?
Obviously my GTR, and then my daily, my other daily is a Lexus hybrid.
Okay, like the little Prius looking one.
No, it's I have a GS 450H.
Okay.
Yeah, I need a room for the family.
Okay,
so,
gotcha. Okay.
Yeah, I had that little Prius looking one, but it's too small.
Okay. So, what do you think the future of automotive performance is going to be?
Well, based on what I've seen right now, and what's upcoming, I mean, obviously power is number one. I mean, right now you can go out and buy a 500 horsepower car right off the showroom, and it's a normal thing.
Right.
So you've seen all the cars are moving to smaller displacement engine, turbocharged. Almost all the manufacturers that have high performance car in their lineup are forced induction. So I think turbocharged is the way to is the way for the future.
And even the domestic guys are going that way.
Exactly.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, exactly.
All right. So let's close this thing out. How do we connect with you and your company?
You can connect with me and our company at JotechRacing.com. That's our website, and our Facebook is Jotech Motorsports, and our Instagram is also Jotech Motorsports.
Okay. Kenny, I really wanted to appreciate you taking the time to talk with us.
Definitely. I really appreciate the opportunity, and thank you for doing this, Kevin.
Thanks for listening to Do It for a Living. You can find out more about this guest, this show, and even details about what we just talked about at our website, doitforaliving.net. Check out the Facebook page at facebook.com/doitforaliving and tell us who you want to hear from. And most importantly, subscribe to the podcast. Click subscribe. Do it now. Seriously. I'll wait while you grab your phone. Open up the podcast app. Tap the subscribe button. When you subscribe, you help us gain momentum and attract more high-level guests. Thanks for listening, and good luck.